fourth rule of improvisation is be believable. This is often referred to as play it legitimately, but I like be believable better, so we'll use it. The last three videos went over the first three rules: show me, don't tell me, yes, and play the moment. The fourth rule of improv is be believable. This is vitally important in drama and in writing. Have you ever read a book or watched a movie where you felt something in it was unbelievable? I have. Maybe the magic or the superpower wasn't consistent. Maybe the petite girl wasn't believable as the kick-butt fighter. Maybe the cell phone in the caveman setting just wasn't convincing. When the concept of being believable was first introduced to me as a preteen in drama class, we were assigned to come up with some character that was unbelievable. Not some odd backstory, but just overdone. For example, if a character is clumsy, it does not mean that he trips and falls every 2 feet. If a character is dumb, it doesn't mean that he can't add 2 plus 2. If a character stutters, that doesn't mean that he stutters on every word. If a character talks with his hands, it doesn't mean that he has to go spastic. In my drama class, we had to create unbelievable characters and then pull them into the realm of believability. In that case, into the realm of realism. But in stories, to be believable, a character or setting does not have to be realistic. There is a huge difference between being believable and realistic. So being believable is not synonymous with being realistic. Honestly, most people don't want to read a book or watch a movie that is entirely realistic. If we want realism, we have life. Reading is a way to escape real life. It's one of the reasons fantasy and science fiction are such popular genres. So how is something believable if it's not realistic? And if it doesn't need to be realistic, isn't anything believable? To be believable, the story must be true to the characters and the world. If an author creates a world where people have superpowers, then superpowers are believable. If the author creates a world where time travel or travel by wormholes is commonplace, then those things are believable. In my book, The Shards, the land is shattered, and in each shard of the land, a different principle of physics is distorted. In Graviton, gravity doesn't work as it should, so people there can walk up the side of a building just as if they were walking on the ground. In Impulse, inertia works differently, so the people there can alter inertia. That's Newton's first law, the one that states, objects in motion tend to stay in motion unless acted upon by an outside force, and objects at rest tend to stay at rest unless acted upon by an outside force. Thus, people there can make an object from across the room fly over to them, or they can make a wagon roll without being drawn by a horse. In Eden, the law of entropy is broken, so instead of everything going to its maximal level of rest, thus disorder, they can destroy an item and have it rebuild itself, often in a different form. In Oddsville, people can alter probability, so very unusual things can believably happen. There are many shards, each unique. It's a very unusual world, so definitely not realistic, but it is believable. What makes it believable is that the rules that I have for the different shards and the interactions between them are consistent. People born in a shard get that ability, but it only works in that shard, so people from Graviton can't go into Impulse and alter gravity. There is an exception, and that is the people called the Few, whose magic works outside of their shards. I don't want to give spoilers, so I won't say much. Read the book. It is very unusual, but interesting and pretty funny. My point is that even with very odd worlds or unusual characters, a story is believable even if it isn't realistic, as long as you, as the author, are consistent to your world and characters. As long as you are consistent to the rules you have set, the reader will suspend disbelief. Everyone has heard the term suspension of disbelief. That means that the reader is willing to accept things that are not realistic, or even things that may not be scientifically accurate, as long as it feels consistent to the world and believable. There is kind of a joke that authors love exotic matter because it is not understood, so we can write it how we want, and it's a sci-fi author's best friend. I have used exotic matter in a story before because my son put it in and had an exact definition to use for it for the story, so it was consistent in its usage, not some overpowered thing that conveniently solved all problems. I have to be very careful about any science I use in books, as I live with a husband and sons who are great at science. And if I don't get it right or believable, they argue with me and I have to rewrite it. When writing, the world has to be believable, the science believable, the relationships believable, the characters believable, and the plot believable. If they are not believable, the story will have major holes, and that doesn't make for a good story. So, sure, do unusual things, make unusual worlds and characters, but establish those and stick to the rules you set and the characters you create. No one likes to see a character do something out of character. I will definitely do videos on creating settings at work and character development. My children are making a video series on developing ideas for stories. But for now, I'm just explaining the fourth rule of improv: be believable. How does this apply to life, you might ask? In life, we should be consistent to who we are, or even more so, who we want to be and should be. As a Christian, I should act as a Christian. My words and actions should show integrity. Likewise, everyone needs to be true to their best selves and act believably to who they can and should be. That finishes up explaining the four rules of improvisation: show me, don't tell me, yes and, play the moment, and be believable. I hope you keep watching Advice for Writing and Life. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment.